So I realized a little pattern here as I try to figure out exactly why aren't people able to actually grow their savings by more. And the answer is that most people, they generally want more out of life. They want to save more, invest more. They want just more overall. They actually want to do better. But the way capitalism is set up, it's not set up for you to actually have more. It's set up for you to actually give more. And I'm not talking about charity. I'm talking about from the minute you actually get paid, all you do is give. You give to taxes, you give to bills, give to responsibilities, give to debt, and by the time you're actually done giving all your money away, you're left with absolutely nothing. And that's why most people, they live paycheck to paycheck. So I'm making this video not for the person that has, for example, some savings and they want to use it to grow it. The answer is obvious. You got to learn how to spend your money and invest your money correctly, and I have videos on this channel for that. So subscribe to the channel, hit the bell to get notified, more on the way. But I'm making this video for that person that basically has been trying for a while to just grow their savings, to actually have some savings, and has not been able to do it. And in this video, I'm going to give you some tools and a system to actually make this work better for you. So let's get right into it, because the first thing you want to do, honestly, is you actually want to stop trying to save money by spending money. It's one of the worst ideas ever, and everyone is always trying to sell you on one of these dumb ideas. The idea that, hey, if I spend my money here and I get a discount here, I just save money. No. You still spent money you didn't need to spend. And whenever you buy, for example, hey, I just came back home, and guess what, Sandra? I bought a TV and it was 50% off, so I saved 50%. No, you spent 100% of the money you did not need to spend on something. On top of that, there's this big thing going around right now, and it's hybrid vehicles and electric vehicles. They're great for the environment, all this stuff. But in reality, when you think about it, and when you actually break things down, I fell for this too, okay? I bought me a 2014 Toyota Prius, and the car does great. I spend literally like nothing on gas really, and it's because I do a lot of city driving. But for the average person that's driving, for example, on the highway, there are no real savings. On top of that, guess what? They don't tell you that they're more expensive to actually fix. They're more complicated, so you can't take it to any mechanic. And on top of that, it's kind of brand new technology, so they're more likely to actually break. So I should have just bought me a standard Toyota Corolla, and once technology gets better, cheaper, and more modern, then I could have bought one of those for the planet. But you don't ever want to be a test dummy. And here's another concept, because everyone is always trying to sell you dumb ideas that sound great, but when you actually apply it, it's just a waste of time, okay? So I pay about $100, $150 when it comes to my electric bill. My friend tells me, Tommy, I sell solar panels, so I can have you be energy independent, right? Great for the environment, awesome stuff, guys, okay? But the idea was I have to spend $30,000 on solar panels to save me $150 per month. And if you don't have $30,000, like the average person doesn't have that much money, obviously, the answer is you get to go into debt. You get to pay that off over 10, 15 years, and then you can be energy independent unless the solar panels basically break. The idea is when you're looking at things to spend your money on, try to just ask yourself this very simple question. It just devours everything. Will buying this thing produce for me any money? And if the answer is no, most likely you don't want to get involved. When it comes to stocks, will spending money on stocks make me more money? Yeah. Real estate? Yeah. So be smart when it comes to buying assets, and don't try to justify buying things you don't need to save money on whatever it is, okay? Doesn't make any sense. Now, number two, guys, is if you don't use it, you lose it. I don't know why this works this way, guys, but whenever I used to try to save money, and just for the sake of saving money, which by the way is fine because you want to have some savings there, but for me personally, if my savings don't have a name, if they don't have a purpose per se, I end up spending that money always, like 100% of the time. So for me personally, I always want to label my money for the reason I'm actually having that money there for. And there are 4 legitimate reasons to actually save money for. Number 1, to pay off debt. If you're paying somebody 18 to 24% in interest on a credit card, you don't want to be rich because it's very hard to make that much money in an investment. So you're kind of stuck. So you want to use money to pay off debt. Number two, you want to use money to build up an emergency account. Here's why, because there's going to be a time where your job is not going to do as well as you probably think it is. You're going to be fired. Something's going to happen, break your leg. You want to have your own money, not depend, for example, just on the government and the kindness of strangers. Very important. You can be emergency independent in a sense. Number three, you want to have money for investing. Everyone tries to focus on this first, but it makes no sense if you're trying to invest safely like I do, for example, into index funds, and you're trying to make 8-12%, but you're paying somebody 18%. You have an emergency account, and that's why I always say before you start investing, pay off your debts, have an emergency account. So when things go bad, you can always just say, hey, I'm going to be able to keep investing because I have this money here on the side for exactly bad things to happen. Number four, save up money for a down payment on a home. I have friends that have a lot of money. They don't even have a paid off home because they're always worried, for example, on can I maximize this dollar? But when things go bad, everything goes bad. And before they know it, something could happen and they lose their home, and then it's just not a good situation. You know, God forbid. Okay. Now, the last thing, guys, for this video is this. And by the way, this should have been first, but the person that did not make it to the end of this part probably would not have used it if I put it in the very beginning. So if you made it all the way here, comment down below, I made it, so I know you actually made it. But the idea is, you can't manage what you don't track, you know? So what I mean is, when you have money coming in and you don't know exactly how much is coming in, how much is going out, into what the money's being spent on, it's kind of like you just don't understand what's actually going on with your money. And by the way, there's this idea that a lot of folks, what they do is they like to ignore the problems, pretend like they don't actually have them, just keep spending their credit card, putting up that limit all the way up. And it's kind of like, well, as long as I don't pay attention, it's not going to bother me. The answer is no. The problem still exists. It will still persist. And when it actually gets your attention, guess what's going to happen? It's probably going to be too late. So always stay on top of these things, okay? So here are 4 basic questions I want everyone watching this video right now to have the answer to help them manage their money a lot better. Number 1, very simple. How much money do you make per month after taxes, okay? A lot of folks, they don't know that. They know, for example, I make $4,000, but how much do you actually get in your pocket? Most people don't know. So just write that down. Number 2, how much money do you spend each month on these 4 categories, which is shelter, utilities, groceries, and transportation? Those are the 4 core spending when it comes to any single budget. So you should know exactly what these numbers actually are and what they actually add up to. And number 3 is, what is your baseline budget? And what that basically means is, once you know those 4 expenses, you add them all up, that's how much money you actually need to live without any of the fat. When I say fat, I mean, for example, not having the things you want, but just the things you basically need. So no, for example, fancy internet, no eating out, no luxury vehicles, none of that stuff, okay? Just the basics that you actually need. And number 4 is, how much debt do you have and how much interest is it actually costing you? You should have all these answers right in your pocket, so this way you know exactly how life actually works, okay? So it's not like, for people out there that have, for example, a variable income, just use, for example, the lowest part of your income, okay? If you have debt, it's at different interest rates, figure out exactly, call in and say, hey, I have this one, and this one, and this one, and this one. This way you know exactly where you actually stand. And the last thing, guys, is, okay, when you think about having a budget, don't think that having a budget is like this very tedious, boring, restraining thing. No, a budget is what's going to actually give you the ability to follow through with what your plans actually are. But if you don't have a budget, if you don't have a plan, then you already arrived at exactly the place you need to be. And if you're not happy there, you need to change that, okay? So overall, guys, that is it for this video. Comment down below if you feel comfortable with all these questions, but overall, I just want you guys to answer them, have them on hand, and this way, last tip here, okay? Once you figure out exactly how much money you should have left over. Use that money for one of those purposes I give you guys above. Basically, whether it's to pay off debt, which I recommend that first, then save for emergencies, then start investing, then save for a down payment, okay? Finance is boring. The hardest part is the emotional part. It's the, for example, not spending money on things you don't need. That's the hard part. But the numbers are there. Everything is there. It's just, it takes a lot of willpower and habits and systems to actually make everything work, okay? But that is it for this video. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, hit the bell so you get notified. Comment down below any questions. Up here is another banger. Over here is my face. Subscribe. And as always, long-term team officially out.